Hey, Brian, how are you? Good to have you on here today. Really excited about today's lesson. Obviously, week number 1 of the 10-week Master Fretboard Workshop. Hey, William. So first of all, guys, all we have to do here is just make sure everything's working all good. So just leave me a comment in that comment section over here. We've got lots of hellos. We've got Anthony, Jim, Duncan, John. I'm missing heaps of them. They're flying through. Let me know where you guys are in the world. Obviously, you can see and hear me clearly, which is cool. Brian said the boss let me out early and he made it. That's awesome. All right, so we got Dave, we got Laurie, DJ, Jim, Paul, Michael, David, Vincent, Phil, Bill. I'm missing so many of you guys. We got Canada, we got New York, Vancouver, Texas, New Zealand, Colorado, UK, London, Salt Lake City. Fantastic. Quebec, Canada. All right, Wisconsin, Baltimore. Fantastic. Awesome, guys. So cool to have you guys here. And as I've mentioned, really excited about what we are going to be going through here, not just in this lesson, but in the next 10 weeks. So, one thing that we have to talk about is how to get the best live stream for your computer. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up these notes of mine here. All right, so now we just want to wait probably 30 more seconds just to let people jump in that haven't jumped in yet. Okay, and so so just so you guys, a lot of you guys are VIP members, so you'll be very used to this kind of thing. And if you aren't used to it, we're going to go over a few basic things soon. But just keep in mind that as we go through the lesson, that you're going to have recordings of absolutely everything we go through. Now, what we do is we basically get everyone in the room, and then so you in the recording, you won't actually have this part in the recording because obviously we're just getting all things sorted out. So we're just going to wait just 30 more seconds or so for everybody else to jump in here who's going to come and join us live. And I'll see how much of my coffee I can finish in that time before we get started. Oh, all right. Okay, so as we go through this lesson, guys, you will have Johnny, the member support manager, here with you guys. So, Johnny, you might as well jump on now and just introduce yourself to. So, I mean, some of you guys might not have met Johnny before. So,
hey, everyone, hope all's well. Right, here I am. So it's great to see all you guys here. Looking forward to this lesson. We've been going hard getting this ready, and Charlie, I got a taste of what Charlie does the other night. I worked till about 4 in the morning, which he pretty much does every night. So, man, I'm excited, and I'll be looking after you guys here with any support stuff. And remember, any other support questions not related to this lesson, get in touch with me at support@Guitar Mastery Method, and I'll get you sorted from there. So cheers, guys, and rock on.
All right, thank you, Johnny. Cool. All right, so guys, as we go through this, as Johnny's just mentioned, if you have any trouble with, like, you can't get the PDF working or that kind of thing, just post in a comment and Johnny will reply to that. Now, because of the nature of these this workshop, as we go through the lessons, I'm going to be keeping a little bit of an eye on the comment section, but not as much as I normally would in a normal, for instance, live lesson, because basically what I'm going to do is if I see something pop up that I think really needs addressing straight away, I'll jump straight to it. And be times where, for instance, I am going to be actively participating in the chat. But then what we're really going to focus on is the Q&A session, the questions and answers session at the end of the lesson, okay? Because I want to make sure that we can cover absolutely everything, because quite often you will get questions about something we're just about to cover. And basically, each of these lessons in the workshop are going to be like building blocks. So, for instance, in this first lesson, we're only going to cover what is in this building block. We're not going to cover what's in the next one or what's in the next one. So if you happen to ask a question of something that is going to be answered later on in the workshop, obviously we're just going to be focusing just on this one, but we can, of course, I can answer that when we go into the Q&A session later on. Okay, now the other thing I wanted to mention before we actually start the live lesson recording, okay, because obviously it's going to be recording in the members area. Okay, I wanted to mention about the Eric Clapton guitar that we're giving away. Now, I'm sure you guys all know, if you're here, that we are giving away an Eric Clapton Stratocaster worth $1,599 to one of you guys that goes through the whole workshop. Okay, and obviously the reason why I wanted to mention this now is because I'm not going to mention anything about it in the live lesson and the lesson recordings. Okay, now the reason for that is because obviously as we go forward, this course is going to be available for people, not for the next extended period of time, but like let's say for instance 6 months or so when we offer this out, they'll only get the recordings, and obviously it's not fair if they hear about how you guys were lucky enough to be in the chance to win a guitar. Okay, so so just to quickly go over exactly what that is, I'm giving the guitar away to one person, okay, and it could be you. It's going to be completely chosen at random, and how it's going to be chosen is that at the end of the workshop, okay, because you have to go through the workshop to be in the chance to win. At the end of the workshop, I'm going to give you a easy test to go through, okay, very easy test. If you go through the workshop, it's going to be super simple. If you haven't gone through the workshop, you're not going to be able to answer the questions. Now, all you have to do is just answer those simple questions. That proves to me that you have gone through the workshop, and I'll send you a digital certificate with my signature on it, just saying that you have completed the workshop. You've proved to me that you've completed the workshop and you have a complete understanding of the fretboard, as well as we will put you in the draw to win the Eric Clapton Fender Stratocaster worth $1,599 US, and we'll send that out anywhere in the world. Now, the reason for doing that is because it's kind of like I'm testing it out. It's like an extra incentive for you guys to go through the workshop. I know that if you go through the workshop, you're going to get some amazing results. So Mark says, do you have to attend all the live sessions? No, you don't. Even if you never attended a live session and only ever watched the recordings, as long as you follow along with the workshop and get to the end of it, which of course you can do just by the recordings, then you are completely fine. Okay. So, now, what we want to do is, so just keep that in mind. Okay, now I am going to be a little bit lenient. So for instance, at the end of the workshop, at the end of the 10 weeks, I'm going to give you 1 month. Okay, I'm going to give you 1 month to catch up. So if you happen to fall behind, you got a month to go through the recordings and catch up to enter in the draw to win the guitar. I think that's only fair. I mean, things pop up in life sometimes. Okay, so I'll just have a quick sip of my water. Now, another thing that I want to mention before we actually go hardcore straight into the lesson, and so this part is not going to be in the members area, I want to talk about getting the best possible live stream. Okay, now we're actually going to create a whole video designed specifically to show you how to do that, but because we don't have the video ready just yet, I wanted to explain that to you right now. Okay, because the thing about these live streams is that they're only as strong as the weakest link. Now, we spend a huge amount of time making sure that the live stream is as perfect as it can be from our side. Okay, so we have the fastest internet available. We make sure that all of our computer systems are running completely slipstream. We not only is Johnny moderating and making sure that you guys are getting all sorted, but we also have another thing set up so he can see exactly what you guys are seeing if you have a good setup. And if there's any problems on there, he lets me know straight away. Okay, so what are the things you can do to get the best possible live stream? Okay, now some of these things are going to be things you're going to want to do, for instance, after this. You're not going to be able to have time to go through and get them all sorted. Okay, but number one, this may sound a little strange, but delete all the files on your computer that you aren't using. Okay, if you have more disk space on your computer, it just runs a whole lot better. And because we are using like a lot of resources, it's going to work a whole lot better. The other thing you want to do is get rid of any programs that you don't use. So for instance, in a Windows computer, if you just go Start, Control Panel, Programs and Features, and then just go through that list and just uninstall every single program that you don't use. Okay, if you don't know the name of it, I wouldn't recommend uninstalling it in case you uninstall something that is like very important for your computer to run. Okay, but seriously, go through. You'll be amazed at how many programs can just pile up in there after a while. All right, so important things you can do right now is to cross off all other web pages that you aren't currently using. Okay, now this one is very important. Okay, now websites like Facebook are constantly refreshing themselves. And when they constantly refresh themselves, they start using up bandwidth. Okay, so literally cross off Facebook, cross off absolutely everything. You want to be totally engaged in this lesson anyway. So cross that off. For instance, you got Skype, you want to cross that off. Okay. You want to cross off absolutely anything that is going to deter you from focusing 100%, but also that's going to use up any bandwidth. And then so as I mentioned, we are going to be creating a video that is going to show you exactly how to do it all in a very easy to understand way. But another thing is that you want to plug in. The wireless internet is all good, but you want to plug in to a cable into your computer if you have one. Now, I have some very long cables that get strewn across my whole house in order to do this. Okay, so I definitely recommend getting a cable to do that with. All right. Now, okay, so for instance, just remember that if you go through all of this and you can't watch the lesson for whatever reason, don't worry, because you do have the recordings that will be in the members area. Okay, so if you have any trouble with the live stream, there is the reconnect button that is at the bottom. I'm going to try and keep the talk of trying to fix your live stream to a minimum, just so that the recordings are just much more crisp and clean the whole way through. And I think that's about it as far as that stuff goes. But yeah, it's obviously just really important that you guys can get the best possible live stream. So I can give you guys that list in the members area, which I'll actually do that afterwards. I'll just put a note here. Best live stream notes. Okay, I'll put that in the members area. We do have a video. We're going to make it quite funny, actually, coming out very soon. All right, so the other thing I wanted to mention just really quickly, down here in the comments section, you do have at the bottom, there is the gray speech bubble. If you click on that, it will pop up, and then you can go into, you can make it a question instead of just a comment, and it comes up in a different area for me, and a little bit easier for me to go through. As I mentioned, I'm going to be going through a lot of those questions, mainly at the end of the lesson. So I'm going to give you guys a PDF hangout very soon. And oh yeah, the other thing is that helps your live stream is using the latest version of Google Chrome. Okay, using the latest version of Google Chrome as your web browser will help you to get the best possible live stream. Okay, so now that stuff is all sorted, I think that we are just about ready to start this lesson. Okay, so what I'm going to do, even before we jump on board here, actually, no, I won't do that just yet. I won't give you the PDF, okay? All right, now, here we go. So from here on in is where you're going to have the recording in your members area. Hello and welcome to week number 1 of the 10-week Master the Fretboard workshop. Now, over the next 10 weeks, we are going to be covering a huge amount of stuff, but it's all going to be cut down into very bite-sized, very easy to digest pieces, okay? So now I've already talked about committing to the next 10 weeks in the welcome video that is inside your members area. But if you missed that introduction video, after you watch this, go and write it into the members area straight after this lesson and watch that video, because it is very, very important, and it does have some very important things that you need to know about the workshop and how to get the most out of it. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to share my screen, and we're just going to talk over exactly what you are going to be covering, what you're going to be learning in this 10-week Master the Fretboard workshop, just so you know exactly what to expect and also what you can be looking forward to. Now, as I swap screens, we can lose each other just for like a second or two, okay? So don't freak out. We will be there in just 1 second. Now, if you can see the thing that says, here is what you will learn, please put a yes in the comment section. Now, there is a little bit of a delay, about a 20 to 30 second delay between when I talk and you guys hear me. So we've got tons of yeses flying through right now here. Fantastic. All right. So here is what you will learn. Complete freedom on the fretboard. So what exactly do I mean by that? You'll understand and be able to use the pentatonic scales, the blues scales, the diatonic scales in both major and minor, plus understand and use the modes, which is Ionian, Dorian, Phrygian, Lydian, Aeolian, and Locrian. You'll know which of the above will work best for different playing situations, playing to backing tracks, writing songs, or improvising and jamming live with other musicians. You'll understand what chords are available to you in any key, how to use the chords that are being played in a song to your advantage as a lead guitar player, so you can focus on the notes that sound spectacular. Okay, now you're obviously going to know all the notes that are going to fit in a key, but you're going to know the exact ones to go to really make a part stand out. How to mix major and minor keys together, how to write guitar solos, not just improvise. So you're going to be able to like jam, for instance, you chuck on a jam track, a backing track, or just, jam along with other musicians, but you're also going to learn exactly how to write a structured guitar solo. So by that, I mean, you'll be playing the exact same thing over the exact same piece of music, okay? So just like any of the famous guitar solos that you know and love, you'll learn how to write your own. How to mix pentatonic playing, blues scale playing, and diatonic playing into a lead guitar performance. Now, this is something that, for instance, Jimmy Page from Led Zeppelin would quite often do. How to know what key a song is in, either another band song or your own that you've come up with. So, for instance, let's say you come up with a few chords and you're wondering, okay, so what key is this in? Okay, where can I solo? And also, what other chords are available to me to use when I'm writing this as a song. You'll also know how to play great sounding lead guitar that fits any playing situation, so you can feel 100% confident you will hit the right notes at the right time because of the knowledge you have learned in the 10-week Master the Fretboard workshop. All right, so let me just share, where are we? All right, everything goes haywire there for a minute. Okay. I did miss out Mixolydian. Of course, I did. We will definitely be covering Mixolydian. Okay, so thanks for pointing that out, Casey. And Phil, good eyes. All right, guys. So with that in mind, so if you're excited about the kind of guitar player that you're going to be in just 10 weeks from now, please put a big yes, exclamation mark, in the comment section right now. Now, as I've mentioned, I'm here to guide you every step along the way. And the way this workshop is laid out is to be very easy and bite-sized. So we've got tons and tons of yeses pouring through right now. Fantastic. All right, so what I need you to do right now, as we begin to go through this workshop, is to, obviously the whole list of things that we're just about to cover, okay, is a huge amount, okay? But what I need you to do is to not look at the top of the staircase, okay? What I need you to do is to only focus 100% on the next stair that you need to stand on, okay? So the next building block that we're going to be creating today, okay? We're going to be building that first stair, that first step to be going on to today. Then the next week we'll build the next stair. So by the time we get to the end of this 10 weeks, by the time we get to week number 10, you're going to be at the top of the staircase. Okay, you would have got there very, very easily. All right. Now, another way to think of this is that when you're driving through the country in complete darkness with no street lights, you can only see about 100 feet in front of you. You can't see the destination, okay? But you know that once you drive that 100 feet that you can see right now, the lights of your car will light up the next 100 feet. And you can drive from one side of the country to the other, only ever seeing the next 100 feet in front of you and get to the destination. This workshop works in the exact same way. All you need to do is trust in the science, trust in me, and trust in yourself to follow along. Okay, now follow along with each week of the workshop. And I know if you just do that, by the end of these 10 weeks, you would have changed the way you play guitar forever. Now, remember that you are not alone in this journey. If you're joining me live, you can see in the comment section right now the hundreds of guitar players that are going to be walking by your side every step along the way. And if you're watching the recording of this, okay, just jump into the community and you'll see all of us in there. Okay, guitar players of all different levels and all different styles as well. Now, I always say that results are the best kind of motivation. Now, nothing will keep you motivated by seeing results from the work that you're putting in. But even so, I know what it feels like to doubt yourself sometimes. And I think that, you know, and to possibly think that that things aren't possible for you. So if you ever need help with anything, from getting a more detailed explanation of something that I go over in the lessons, to reassurance from your peers that you're in the right place and this is possible for you, I urge you to reach out to us either by clicking on the support tab in your members area, or in better yet, post in our private members only Facebook community. All right. Now, all I ask is that all of you guys here, every single one of you guys that is here live and watching the recordings, to come together as a team to celebrate each other's successes along the way, to lift those members up who might fall down at some points, and to work together for the common goal of complete guitar fretboard freedom. Because I know that if you're here with me right now, how much that is going to mean to you as a guitarist and as a musician. So if you see someone in the community having trouble understanding something, do your best to jump in and help them out. I'll be doing the same, and you'll have hundreds of other guitarists in the community that are going to be willing to do the same for you. Now, for those of you who are live with me right now, if you are 100% committed to completing this workshop, to trusting in the science and follow along with every single week right until the end so you can experience the results I've just talked about, and you're also committed to working together as a team to help your fellow members, to help them along their way and help them experience those results as well, then what I would like you to do right now is just put a yes, I'm in all the way comment in the comment section, okay? We need to all be here together. We're going to smash this, okay? So put yes, I'm in all the way, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. Now, if you're watching the recording, get a piece of paper out and just write it in there with passion, underline it 50 times, okay? So we've got tons of comments coming through here right now. This is awesome, guys. We're going to be working together for this, okay? We're going to be all working together. We're going to get to the end of this 10 weeks, and we're going to be experiencing these amazing results with guitar playing, okay? That is my promise to you. Now, this is awesome. We got so you guys that are live, you can see the huge amount of comments that are flying through. Now, in the recording, you guys got to know we got hundreds of guitarists right now that are just all in here. We're all going through this together. This is fantastic. All right, now I just want to have an extra quick note to the more advanced guitar players. Now, I know that you guys are here because you want to add on to the knowledge that you already have. And by the end of the 10-week workshop, we will be diving into material I've never taught before. But as we begin, if you want to get the most out of the workshop, follow along with every step, even if for the first few weeks, or even, for instance, the first 6 weeks if you're more advanced, it may feel like, for instance, going over some information you already know. Now, I'll be dropping gems here and there that you would have never heard before because I've never taught this material through this format. And I think these first weeks think of them as like strengthening your already solid foundation so that the weeks closer to the end of the workshop are going to be even more explosive for your guitar playing growth. So one more thing that will help you experience even better results, now this is for everybody, this is a little bit of a challenge to you. I want you to find an apprentice. Okay, find someone that you can teach this information to week by week. Now, whether that is a friend of yours, a jamming partner, maybe someone younger you know that wants to play guitar, whoever it is, if you pass on the knowledge you learn in this workshop as we go through week by week, your understanding will be much greater. Because when we teach others, it literally moves information to more parts of our brain and makes the neural pathways much stronger. So not only will you help someone else also experience awesome results on the guitar, but your results personally will be amplified. Now, you may already have someone in mind, but if you're struggling to think of someone, here's a quick hack that you can use. You can get all of the benefits of teaching someone by recording videos of you teaching it, even if nobody ever sees them. So just literally record on your webcam or your cell phone or any kind of camera, it doesn't matter. Just explain as if you were teaching someone else step by step. Follow along with reference material that I'm going to be giving you and go through each and every part. Now, don't underestimate the power of this one tip and how much it will improve your results. All right? So, you guys ready to get started? I hope so. I'm going to be giving you guys a PDF in just a minute. Okay. So amazing to have you guys' comments flying through here as well. Okay, so we got yes, go, yes, 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 fantastic. All right, guys, I'm super excited about this. We're going to be covering some pretty sweet stuff. All right. So, what is a scale? We're going to be learning, obviously, a lot of scales. Now, in music theory, for instance, here is like the definition of a scale. Okay, a scale is any set of musical notes ordered by fundamental frequency of pitch. Sounds pretty complex to me, okay? Now, all you have to think about it is a bunch of notes that fit together in a key, okay? That's all it is. A bunch of notes that fit together in a key, that sound good together, that are, harmonious, okay? They're not dissonant. They sound really good when they're played together. We can build chords from them. We can build guitar solos from them. Now, we are not going to be learning scales to start with. We're going to be learning scale patterns. Now, patterns, the word pattern is the key word here, because if we learn the scale patterns, then we're going to learn all the scales without having to think about them. Okay. Now, if you think about this as if you learn the scale patterns instead of just the scales, it's just like the saying of give a man a fish, he eats for a day. Teach a man to fish, he eats for a lifetime. Learning how to use the patterns, move them around the fretboard, get them in different keys. You're going to learn how to play every kind of scale instead of just one. All right. Now, in the Getting Started module, which you guys should have all gone through, I played a video. I had a video on there on how to read a scale diagram. Now, it's only 1.5 minutes long, but because it is so imperative for you to have gone through, I'm just going to play it now. It's only 1.5 minutes long, okay, just before we jump in and I give you the PDF for today's lesson. All right, so click a few buttons and load this up. Now, just, that is totally the wrong video. Let's try that again. Here we go. Okay, so how to read a scale diagram. I'll be back with you in 1 minute.
Scale diagrams are very easy to read. It starts out just like a chord diagram, and then we just tip it on its side. Here's the first scale pattern you'll learn in its scale diagram. As you can see, this is just a snapshot of the fretboard. The thickest string here, and the thinnest string up here. And obviously all the others in the middle. Pause the video and read through all the other parts of the scale diagram and make sure you understand them before moving on. This is the second pattern you will learn. You'll notice that there are no open notes here, so it tells you exactly what fret to start on here. So to play this scale, you start from the lowest note and go through to the highest. Then back down to the lowest note. So to recap, this is a scale diagram, a snapshot of the fretboard. You start from the lowest note, play through to the highest note, and back down to the lowest note again.
All right, so you guys should be back with me now. If you can see me here, just put a number 1 in the comment section. Obviously, very important that you can see and hear me before we jump in. Lots of ones flying through, fantastic. All right, so now I'm going to give you guys the PDF. Now, if you're watching the recording of this, it's going to be just down below, so you can go and download that. And for all you guys that are here with me, you're going to get it up here in just a moment. Download PDF here. All right, so just up here, you see a green box and it says download PDF here. So right now you're going to want to go grab that and go download that straight away. All right. Now, as you go and grab that, I'm going to get this onto clean. So we're going to start out, just as that video explained, learning these scale patterns. All right. And now the thing to think about with this stuff is each of these scale patterns we're going to learn, I'm going to give you a picture that you can associate with a pattern that's going to help you see it on the fretboard. Because as humans, we see in pictures. Okay. Now, for instance, don't think of a red door. You're thinking of a red door, okay, because that's the way our brain is wired. Now, don't worry about the picture that I have on here just yet. What I want you to do right now is to focus just on walking through the pattern with me. So I'm going to grab the camera, I'm going to bring it down here closer to my guitar, and we're going to start walking through this first pattern, which is called the C pentatonic scale pattern. Now, later on, I'm going to explain why it is called the C pentatonic scale pattern, as well as the other two patterns that we are going to be going through. But please don't rush through the PDF because we are going to be walking through each part step by step, and it's very important that you do just go along piece by piece as we go through this. All right. Okay, so we're going to be doing alternate picking, which again was covered in the Getting Started module. Now, if you guys ever have any trouble with any of the PDFs, okay, no need to worry at all, okay, because all you need to do is just reach out to us, support@guitarmasterymethod.com, and we will make sure that you get everything all sorted, okay? So if you can't view the PDF correctly, don't worry, just get in touch with us and we'll make sure that it's all sorted, okay? Now, with our right hand, we're going to be doing, as I mentioned, alternate picking. So down, up, all right? On the low E string, we're playing down, open. And then what we're going to do is we're going to use our third finger here and play the third finger on the third fret of the low E string. Okay, very easy. All right, and then on the next string below it, we're going to play A open and the third fret. So it's exactly the same as the low E string, okay? And we're just using that third finger, okay? Third finger on the third fret. Open, 3, open, 3. Now, on the next two strings, okay, we're going to be going open, 2, open, 2. Now you notice how I'm using my middle finger here. Now it doesn't matter what speed you're going through this at all, as long as you are just follow along with the right notes. Okay, so far that is very easy to remember. I mean, all we're doing is playing opens and those notes there, okay? Now what we're going to do is put our first finger here, right on the first fret of the B string, and we're going to play that note. And then our third finger here on the third fret. So we're going 1, 3. And on the high E string, open and 3, just like the top. And just like the video you just watched explaining how to read a scale diagram, then we're going to play it in reverse. So just move so you can see the picking hand as well. All right. Now, as we go through that pattern, there is one note that we need to remember more than any of the others. Now, it is called the root note. And that note is this here, the 3rd fret on the A string. Now, you want to think of it not just as the 3rd fret of the A string. You want to think about it as this note of the pattern, okay? So don't, for instance, don't memorize it specifically as the 3rd fret on the A string. Memorize it as that note of the pattern. Now, don't worry about the science or the theory behind root notes whatsoever. All you need to do right now is just remember that this here is the root note. Now, in your reference material, you'll see that that note is highlighted and circled in red. All right? Okay, that note right there. Now, you'll also see in your reference material that below the diagram itself, it says fretting fingers. And it says 1, 2, and 3 below the frets. Now you notice that I'm using those fingers here. Now we're using what we call the 1 finger per fret rule. Okay, so as I walk through the scale, this finger here only plays notes in the 3rd fret. This finger only plays notes in the 2nd fret, and this finger only plays notes in the 1st fret. And we're going to be using that 1 finger per fret rule as we go through this entire workshop. Okay, so how do we remember this? Okay, a really good way is obviously just playing it over and over again. Now, I do have some exercises I'm going to be getting you guys to go through later on how to memorize this. And remember that you don't need to have it completely memorized during this lesson. Okay, this is what you're going to be working on throughout this week. All right, so now what I'm going to do right now is I'm just going to share my screen with you guys, and I'm going to share with you the picture that you can associate with this scale pattern to help lock in your memorization of it. So I'm going to share my screen with you. And remember, you may lose me for just a second, but I will still be here. All right. And then you're going to be able to see the exact page that you have if you've downloaded the PDF. So you should see the PDF right now. Now you see here you have the scale diagram for the C pentatonic scale pattern. We have the root note here highlighted in red. It's telling you over here. All right, and then of course you got the fretting fingers. Okay, so how can we remember this? We can use what we call the sprinter. Okay, now right now he's all upside down, but as you look down on the guitar fretboard, okay, remember that that the scale diagram is kind of flipped in a way. It's like putting your guitar on your lap. All right, now as you for instance, you can look at that sprinter. He's going to be the right way up if you're looking down at your guitar. Now you can see the sprinter overlapped the scale diagram. All right, now see how all these notes kind of fit into the sprinter as if he's trying to get over the finish line. All right, so just keep this in mind. All right, so for instance, Charles has asked a question about the root note. Okay, now we're not going to talk about anything to do with the science or the theory behind the root note just yet. Okay, we're not going to dive into that. I'm going to explain that a little bit later on. Okay, I'm going to explain why we're using that note. Okay, now you see here that if you took away that sprinter, that picture of the sprinter on the scale diagram, that you can still kind of see the shape of the scale pattern. Now, look down at your guitar and imagine that picture of a sprinter on your guitar fretboard. Now, can you see the notes a little bit easier? Okay, can you see where to be playing? Obviously, we have the open notes that are over here that, for instance, aren't necessarily part of the picture. They're going to be part of a different picture. But having this here to help your memory, to help your brain remember how the shape of the pattern is really going to help develop your intuitive sense of the scale pattern. Now, we're not going to stick around too long here, okay? Because obviously this is stuff that you can work on as the week progresses. So we're going to dive straight into the next pattern. All right, so I told you sometimes you might lose me as I switch between them, but I'm always coming back, all right? So this next pattern, as I have another quick slurp of water, is one that you are more than likely going to be familiar with, okay? Because this is a scale pattern that most guitar players know. Tom says, wow, astronomy, like learning the stars in a constellation. Cool. It's exactly a great way to be thinking about it. Now, this pattern here, okay, this is the G pentatonic scale pattern. And we're going to be playing it here on the 5th fret. Now, it looks like this. All right. Now, if you have gone through the Getting Started module, you should already be very familiar with the scale pattern. Okay, now I'm just going to walk through it nice and quickly here. One finger per fret. Okay, so first finger here on the 5th fret, middle finger on the 6th, third on the 7th, and pinky on the 8th. We're starting with our first finger here on the 5th fret, and then we're going to play our pinky on the 8th fret. Okay, now below it, we're putting our first finger on 5, and then third finger on 7. Okay, now below it, we're putting our first finger on the 5th fret and going on the 7th fret on the D string. Now below it, we're going on the 5th fret again and back to the 7th fret. Okay, so see for these, for the A, D, and G strings, all we did is this. Okay, now I notice some people asking where another pattern is. Now don't worry, just trust in the science. You'll see why we haven't learned that pattern yet. We are learning 3 patterns today that are going to do the bulk of the work for you. All right, so from the low E string, walking through just like that. See my right hand here. Okay, now on the B string, first finger here on the 5th fret. See Merle's just jumped on board. Howdy, Merle. Okay, first finger on the 5th fret and pinky on the 8th fret, and repeat that. Okay? Now remember that alternate picking, okay? Down, up, down, up, down, up. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay, so Jim says, is it okay to bar the 5th fret? And no, it is not. So for instance, you can't do this. Okay, and the reason for that is because we need to be, our fingers to be dexterous and to be able to move around. Okay, you're not going to be able to do that kind of thing with the bar, unfortunately. Okay, so just walk along, and if it seems hard, that's a good thing. Okay, if it seems hard, it's because, you know, for instance, you need to be working on these kind of things. Okay, now what I want you to do right now is to, a lot of people learn this pattern here in many different names. Okay, now what I want to ask you to do is to suspend any name that you are comfortable with calling this pattern. Now there is a very important reason for this, and we're going to be getting to that later in the workshop. But right now what I want you to do is to remember this as the G pentatonic scale pattern. Now I'm going to explain just later in this lesson why we call it the G pentatonic pattern. Now, what is the picture that we can use to help us memorize this pattern? Okay, now just before we do that, I want you to memorize just this one note here on the pinky, which is the major root note. Okay? This pinky right here. Now remember, you don't need to be memorizing all of these as we go through. You don't need to be playing them through as fluently as I'm playing them right now. You just have to be comfortable enough to be able to practice it throughout the week. All right, so remember this note here. Now, here we go. We are going to share my screen, so you may lose me just for a brief moment again, and you're going to be able to see the PDF. I started this, I said that the key word here is pattern, not scale. I'm not teaching you guys any scales yet. I'm teaching you guys scale patterns, because the scales are inside of these patterns, and while they may be positioned in the key of C major, this is not a C scale. This is a G pentatonic scale pattern. And remember that pattern right here is the most important word. Okay, so please, please, please don't even think about scales yet. And you'll see why, because this is going to make everything so much more powerful as we go ahead. Okay, so that we're not learning scales yet, we are learning patterns. We're not going to be covering any scales today, only patterns. And this is going to allow us to play any scale we want later on. All right, so what we can do is upside down, back to front G. Okay, just like this. And that's going to help us remember the pattern. Okay, because you see how it kind of follows along. Now, if you look down at your guitar fretboard and kind of draw a G, you can see that there, all right? So we're going through these notes here. Okay, we've got that pinky here. So this is just on the 5th fret. And you can see that this G, the shape of the letter, back to front on the guitar fretboard, is very close to the shape of the scale pattern. Now, this isn't the reason why it's called the G pattern. This just happens to be some crazy coincidence, okay? But it is obviously very easy to remember, because if you just remember the G pattern, remember the letter G. It's going to be back to front, okay? But just going through that shape is going to help you remember the pattern. All right, now I'm going to switch back to me. Okay, now remember, guys, we're not learning scales, we're learning scale patterns. Don't even worry about what this note is. Just remember that you want to remember where it is in the scale pattern. Okay, now we're going to switch back to me, and you're going to see my guitar fretboard again. All right. So you're back to my guitar fretboard. Now, we got that pattern here. Okay, so imagine the G coming down like that, okay? That back to front G. Try and look down at your fretboard and visualize that. All right, so let me know in the comment section if you can look at the fretboard and see that G pattern there. Okay, so you guys are sitting here, some of you guys are mentioning the caged patterns. This is exactly what we're going through, and we're going to be adding in a huge amount more as we go through the workshop. Okay, so just see how you can visualize that G and also the sprinter down here. Okay, so you got the sprinter and the G. We got lots of yeses flying through. Yes, 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 yep, yep, yes, got it. I see it. Yes, fantastic. All right. Great to see you guys. Johnny says, wow, man, I've got a G on my fretboard. Absolutely. Cool. Phil says, yes, clean as a bell. Fantastic. Okay, so absolutely, guys, the root note here is a C. I'm asking you guys to not worry about what note it is, okay, because this is not what we're doing, okay? We're just learning the patterns, okay, and we're basically trying to uncomplicate absolutely everything and just only take the bite of the smallest piece that we need right now. Now, we're going to go up the fretboard a little bit. We're going to be going on to the 10th fret here, and we're going to walk through the D pattern, all right? And the D pattern looks like this. And my high E string sound a little flat there. That's a little bit better. Okay, so our first finger here on the 10th fret of the low E string, and then we're going to play our third finger here on the 12th fret. So just 10 and 12. Okay, now don't worry. For instance, just try and walk through as I go through these patterns, but don't worry if you can't follow along, because you will have all week to work on these. 10, 12, 10, 12, 10, 12. So that's just going from the E, the A, and the D strings. All right, now here we are actually going to break the 1 finger per fret rule, and we're only going to do it once. Okay, now we're locking in our fingers here so that our first finger here is on the 10th fret, our middle finger here is on the 11th fret, our third finger here is on the 12th fret, and our pinky here is on the 13th fret. But our first finger is going to come back and play this note here, the 9th fret on the G. So we play this here, and then we go here, and we're playing the 9th fret on the G with our first finger. Now, our third finger here is keeping in line. So remember that our third finger is locked into this 12th fret. So it's going to get back in line and play that 12th fret there, okay? So we're coming here like that. Okay, so Tom, I can see asking about picking technique. Okay, now I'll answer that question at the end of the session for you. Okay, now from here, we're bringing in this first finger here onto the 10th fret, keeping our fingers locked in, pinky coming here onto the 13th fret. So we're doing this thing here. So remember, first finger here, doing both of these frets, the 9th to the 12th fret on the G, coming back in line, 10th to 13 on the B. Okay, now underneath that, first finger on the 10th fret, third finger on the 12th fret. Now remember, this is something to keep in mind, that the high E string as long as you're in standard tuning, will always be the same as the low E string. So how we start out the scale pattern is going to be how we finish the scale pattern. Now, as long as you can remember the starting note, you've actually already got 2/3 of the whole scale pattern. Okay, the starting 2 notes. Okay, the starting 2 notes of the pattern. You can remember 2/3 of the 1/6 of the scale pattern. No, that is 1/3. Absolutely 1/3. Okay, my maths is not too flash right here, right now. But you can see here. All right, now we need to remember one note, and this is down here on the D string this time. Okay, so the 10th fret on the D string, that is the root note that we need to remember. Okay, this note right here. And remember that in your reference material, you do see that pattern highlighted with a red note around it. All right. Now, I'm going to share my screen, so you may lose me for just 1 second. Just so you can see this picture here. Here's the scale pattern that we've just walked through. Okay, now you can see here the fretting fingers that we used our first finger here for both the 9th frets and the 10th frets. The 9th and 10th frets, I should say. Going up, 3rd and 4th fingers over here. Now we're going to use what we call the broken ladder to help remember the D pattern. Okay, now we walk up 3, you can imagine like climbing down or climbing up, however you want to imagine it. Okay, and then we have it broken on the left and broken on the right. So you have to watch out on the left, you have to watch out on the right. Okay, so a left step and then a right step. That's how you want to be thinking about this here. Now you notice how you can see here how it's mainly here, straight up and down, and it's mainly here, straight up and down. And that's what the ladder is going to help you remember. The broken ladder, okay, because we have these 2 notes here, a note out the left, a note out the right. So you can see that when this picture is overlapped over the scale diagram, that it's pointing to these notes that we need to be playing. So we start out going up the ladder absolutely fine for 3 runs. Then we have the note over here, the left step, and the right step, and of course we finish it exactly the same as we start. Okay, so you can see here people asking, for instance, Kevin, why is it important to remember the root note? Now, the root note is going to allow us, it's going to be basically our anchor to play any kind of scale that we want. Okay, so what we need to do is just remember that. Now, don't worry about anything else other than just memorizing it for now. Okay, you'll learn why it is important later on in the workshop. Now, just to reiterate this, see how we start the pattern is how we end the pattern. Same here. How we start the pattern is how we end the pattern. How we start the pattern is how we end the pattern. Okay? So those notes on the high E string and the low E string are always going to be the same. All right, so now we're going to be going why the patterns are called what they are. Okay, so I'm just going to switch back to me back here. So you should be back with me right now. We'll move the move this up here just for a short moment. So why are, oh, excuse me, this is a little bit of a pain in the butt to get that there. So why are the patterns called what they are? Okay, so for instance, why is the C pattern called the C pattern? Why is the G pattern called the G pattern? And why is the D pattern called the D pattern? We do have 2 other patterns that we won't be learning today, and I'll explain why as we move on through this lesson.
Charlie,
Okay,
just jump in here, man.
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
you just cut out a screen. It's just showing your face as a picture, so you might want to just quickly fix that up.
We should be back here now. Thank you for that, Johnny. Is that going all good, Johnny? Cool. All right. So I'll take this moment just to have one drink of water to make sure you guys are all back here. Okay, so every now and then we do have crazy things happen with this live stream, okay? But that's the nature of the beast. Now, each scale pattern, remember pattern is that key word. Each scale pattern is named after the open chord shape that it is built around. Now, I'll say that again. Each scale pattern, underline pattern, is built around the open chord shape that the scale pattern is built around. I'm going to show you some examples very soon. Now, in your reference material, you can see that we have the scale patterns for the C pattern, the G pattern, and the D pattern. Okay, and what we're going to do is all these scale patterns, we can move them up and down the fretboard. Now, you don't have to worry about doing that just yet, okay? But so you don't even, like, for instance, this stuff I'm about to go through here, if this just goes straight over your head, don't worry about it, okay? Just remember, if you remember, just memorize one line. Each pattern is named after the open chord shape it is built around. As long as you memorize that, you can forget about these pictures, okay? But for those of you who are wanting to know right now, I'm going to explain it and show it to you here, okay? So if we have a look at, for instance, first of all, the C pattern down here, all right? The C pattern. That was the first one that we went through, okay? This here. Just lift that up a little bit. Okay, now this is built around the open C chord. Okay, so Rob just said major light bulb just went off. That's awesome. Okay, so this is built around the C chord. So you notice here, if I do my best and just try to hold the C chord, I'm going to walk through that scale as best as I can. I'm going to have to move fingers around a little bit. Okay, you can see there, I can pretty much hold that the whole time. Minus a few bung notes there. Okay, built around the C chord shape. So the C scale pattern is built around the C chord shape. Now, the G pattern, which we have here. What we're going to do is we're going to move this down to be into an open position. Okay? So what we're going to do is we're just literally going to move this down one fret at a time. Keep moving it down until we have it in an open position, which means that I'm no longer playing with my first finger here, okay? Because if I wanted to, the nut is doing the job, okay? Ricky says that is just awesome. Already got my money worth. Well, we got a lot more work coming over these 10 weeks, let me tell you that. Okay, now you see here, if I swap those fingers, okay? Obviously using my pinky, I don't need to use my pinky just here. If I go to my 3 fingers here, I can play the G pattern now like this. Now, I don't want you to practice the G pattern down here yet. Okay, I want you to practice it just here. Just how we learned it before, okay? But I'm just showing you to demonstrate, okay, what chord, the chord that's inside of this pattern. Okay, now, of course, it is built around the G chord. So as I play the G chord, I can pretty much play. Oh, we've got the G chord. Okay, you can see here how the G chord has a lot to do with the G pattern. Okay, now that is why it's called a G pattern. Now, it doesn't matter if it's positioned here. Oh, gotta stop trying to watch the screen. Doesn't matter if it's positioned here. We're always going to call it the G pattern, okay? Because it is built around the G chord shape. All right. Now, what about the D pattern? Okay, now don't worry if this stuff here is going over your head, as I've mentioned. Okay, that it's all that you have to remember is just that one line. Each pattern is named after the open chord shape it is built around, and this will become more and more evident as we go through the workshop. Okay, now what we're going to do is this is just for those who want to understand this right now. Okay, now we're going to move this pattern all the way down. Okay, so for instance, if we're playing it down here on the 3rd fret. We're going to keep moving it down. Now, once we get to here, we have one note that can be open. Okay. Being that G, because normally we'd reach back. Okay, with that broken ladder. Okay. Now, as we move it into a true open position, we actually end up losing a lot of notes. Okay. Okay. So, for instance, here. Okay, we're going down here. Now you see here, we have the D pattern there, okay? Now I have just noticed an error in the PDF, so I will fix that up, okay? I will actually put a note for that right now. So in the members area, you will have an updated version, okay? So with that scale pattern here, okay, we have to just play this note here. We play it here, okay? And see how the D pattern fits right into that. Oh, sorry, we shouldn't be playing that open string. Okay, so the D chord shape fits right inside of that scale pattern. All right, now we can of course change these into movable patterns. So for instance, some of you guys will be familiar with the G bar chord version. So we can play that, for instance, here, and this is where you're going to be practicing that G chord shape, so that G scale pattern. Okay, so Chris says never had it explained this way. That's awesome. Cool. All right. So that's enough of that stuff. What I am going to do is just show you guys here on the PDF. I'm not going to show you the mistake because there's no point in showing you guys that. But just focus right screen now. Okay, so Graham says, can any scale pattern start on any fret? Yes, it can, but we're not going to do that just yet. All right, so you see here that we have the scale patterns down here. We have the chord shapes here, and we have both of them kind of overlapped here. Now, the green notes here are showing the chord shape. So we have a scale diagram, and we have a chord diagram. And then we have both of them overlapped. And you can see how the green notes, for instance, here, fit perfectly into the scale pattern, into this C scale pattern. Okay, so you see the green notes overlapped into the scale diagram. Now here, with the G pattern, you can see that the G chord fits perfectly into the G scale diagram. All right, so this is making sense to you guys. Just put a big yes in the comment section, okay? If it isn't, that's absolutely fine. Remember, you only need to remember this here. Just memorize this line here. If this doesn't make sense, just memorize this. Each pattern is named after the open chord shape it is built around. Fantastic. We got tons of yeses flying through right now. Now I'm going to flick you guys back to me. So if you lose me for a second, don't worry, I will be back. All right, so you should see me here on the fretboard. We got tons of yeses still flying through. This is fantastic to see, guys. All right. Wow, that's awesome. Great to see. So a lot of you guys saying that light bulbs are going off. All right, that's fantastic because this is only the very beginning. Okay, we are just scratching the surface. The amount of stuff that we're going to be covering through this workshop is going to be absolutely mind-blowing. All you need to do is follow along step by step. Now, if this stuff seems easy, that's perfect. If this stuff seems difficult, that's fine. You have a whole week to work on it. And you can, of course, ask me any questions throughout the week to make sure you get it. If you have any questions about the stuff we've already covered, we are going to be doing the Q&A live session at the end of this, this lesson right here. Okay? Now, what we're going to be doing here is playing one of those scale patterns in a movable position. And that's the C pattern here. Okay? Because, for instance, let's say that we're playing down here in the C pattern. If we just moved that pattern up the way we're playing it there, and we, for instance, played it here, okay, with those open notes, it's not going to sound good. Okay, so what we need to do is make it into a movable position. And the way that we do that is by using our first finger in the same way that we used it, for instance, for the G pattern and the D pattern. We didn't play any open strings for these patterns. Now remember how I moved down into the open position? Okay, now we're going to move this scale pattern all the way up to the 12th fret. Now you see here we've got the open E string, and that is an E note. Now on the 12th fret is another E note. Okay, it's just an octave higher. So this note here and this note here is exactly the same. The 3rd fret is a G note, and the 15th fret is a G note. So this means that we can repeat that same pattern that we played down here, up here on the 12th fret. But now what we're going to do is play our first finger on the 12th fret because we don't have the nut doing the job. So instead of looking like this, if we just positioned our fingers down a fret lower and pretended like our first finger had to play these notes over here, it would look like this. Okay, with our first finger playing along here. So what we're going to do is we're going to lift our first finger all the way up here to the 12th fret. Now I want you to remember that this is the exact same pattern, we're just using different fingers. Now you can still use, for instance, the picture of the Sprinter, which I'll show you in the PDF very shortly. So your first finger here on the 12th fret of the low E string, and then we're going to play our pinky on the 15th fret. Okay, so 12 and 15. 12 with your first finger, 15 with your pinky. And do the exact same thing on the A string. Now, on the next two strings, we're going to go first finger and 3rd finger on the 14th fret. Now here, instead of our first finger playing this note here, our middle finger is going to come here on the 13th fret, and then we're going to play the 15th fret with our pinky. Now, if you have an acoustic guitar, you might have a struggle, trying to reach up here, but that's fine. Just follow along as best as you can. And then on the high E string, first finger on the 12th fret, pinky on the 15th fret. Now remember, you don't have to be going through this nice, you don't have to be going it fast, just nice and slow at your own comfortable space. Your own comfortable pace, not your own space. You should be in your own space though too. And back. Now you'll notice that that is the exact same pattern, okay? Now what I mean by that is that if I go like this, so I'm playing a C chord, but with these three fingers instead of these three fingers. And if I put my finger here, as if I had the bar, and I move that all the way up. Okay, this is still a C chord up here in the C shape, and I can walk through that whole scale pattern the same way I did before. Just a little more awkwardly, okay? Up here on the 12th fret. Now, I'm just going to share my screen again, so if you lose me, I will be back. This here, okay? Now we have the new fretting fingers underneath. Okay, and I really want you guys to make sure you use these exact fingers, okay, because this is going to help you lock in this pattern even more. Now you see that we still have the root note in the same position in the pattern. Obviously we're playing it with a different finger this time, and that's why it's very important to remember where the note is inside of the pattern. Now you can still use the sprinter to help see this pattern, okay? You can see there, oh, that's zoomed in quite far. Okay, as you can see there, that the sprinter is still there with you up on the 12th to the 15th frets. All right? Now, Rick says he's glad he got a cutout acoustic. Absolutely, that will allow you that high fret access. That will allow you to get up there nice and easy. Okay, so what we have done so far is we have played the C pattern down in open position. We have played the G pattern from the 5th fret. We have played the D pattern starting here on the 10th fret, and then we've played the C pattern up here again. Now don't worry if this looks overwhelming, okay? It's just designed to give you a picture, so like a 30,000 foot view of what we have just covered. Now you notice how the entire fretboard is linked up, even though we have two patterns that we are going to be covering in the next lesson. I don't want you to worry about them just yet, because as you can see that even with the three patterns, the C pattern, the G pattern, and the D pattern, we've already linked up the entire fretboard. Now as I move down, you can see that we have these pictures here. We have the sprinter, we have the G, the upside down back to front, and we have the ladder. Now you notice that with those pictures here, for instance, this diagram may look kind of overwhelming, but you look at this and you just remember the pictures, and all of a sudden it looks simple. Now remember that the sprinter here is going to be repeating up here, okay? Now you should be able to look at these dots and almost see the sprinter. Obviously kind of overlaps, okay? We're overlapping into these notes over here, but you can see the sprinter there. So we have the sprinter, the upside down back to front G, and the broken ladder. That is going to allow you to remember these scale patterns. All right? So I'm going to switch back to me with the guitar fretboard. All right. So let's just have a quick little breather there. All right, so how are you guys getting on? Is this stuff all making sense to you guys? Just say yes in the comment section. Let me know if this stuff is all sinking in, if you're liking these pictures, if you're liking the way that we're doing this, okay? Now, you may be wondering exactly what you need to have locked in. Okay, we got yes, yes, cool, cool, fantastic. Wow, that's good to always good to see. Okay, so we are using these pictures to help memorize the patterns. All we need to do is if by the end of today, with everything we've covered, we've got some more stuff we're going to be covering. It's going to help you lock in these patterns into your mind. But if you just remember the sprinter, the upside down, back to front G, and the broken ladder, sprinter, G, ladder, sprinter, G, broken ladder. And that's going to help make sense of the fretboard. Just using those pictures. Remember, the mind thinks in pictures. Humans think in pictures. So applying pictures to the fretboard is going to allow you to be able to see these patterns and go through them a whole lot easier. All right. Now, I'm going to share with you guys 3 exercises that are going to help you better remember the scale patterns, okay? Because this is what I call the skeleton, okay? With everything it's going to be building upon. And that's why we're really, really wanting to make sure that we have this super rock solid foundation to be moving forward with, okay? So, first of all, you can of course just go through the scale patterns, okay? Just the same way as you normally would. But after you have done that, what we want to do is we want to start tricking our mind. We want to start playing it in different ways that's going to allow us to sink in a whole lot more. So as you do play through these scale patterns, think of the pictures. As you're thinking of the picture, try and see the picture on the fretboard, just like you could see on the scale diagram. And that's going to help you go through this. Now, this first exercise is what we call 3-string sets. So I'm going to demonstrate this right here. I'm going to demonstrate all of these on the G pattern at the 5th fret. And the reason why I'm going to demonstrate that all the exercises here is because this is generally the scale pattern that most people are already familiar with. Now, if you're just completely fresh to scale patterns, then this one's probably going to be the easiest as well because it is kind of centralized in the middle of the fretboard. But I do want you to apply these exercises to every single one of these scale patterns. So exercise number 1, 3-string sets. Very, very simple. All we're doing is playing 3 strings of the pattern, moving back one string and playing 3 more, repeating until we get to the high E string, then we're reversing the pattern. Okay, so all we're doing is we're going like this. Okay, so 3-string set. We just played through 3 strings. Then we're going to move up 1 fret, so back to the A string, sorry, 1 string, and go through 3 more strings. Move up 1 string, move up 1 string, and we're at the high E string. So instead of going through the scale pattern like this, we're going like this. So we're constantly overlapping. Now, in your PDF reference material, I have added a guitar tab of that specific exercise. Now, the tab is only there to show you what, for instance, if you get completely stuck, it's just, to remind you how to execute the exercise, okay? But what I don't want you to do is to learn it from the tab, okay? Because you're going to have to apply it to, for instance, the C pattern down here where you have to go like this. Okay, and the D pattern up here. Now, obviously, we want to, at the start, adding in those little pauses makes it a little bit easier to manage. Okay, but we want to end up to the point where we don't have those pauses. Now, it doesn't matter how fast or how slow you're doing these exercises. These are just to help lock them into your mind. But do use alternate picking, which is covered in the Getting Started module. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Now, once we get to the high E string, we're going to repeat the pattern. So it means we're going to do 3-string sets coming back up. Back a string. Back a string. Back a string, and back to the low E string. All right? So as we go through. Just adding in those pauses just for dramatic effect. Now we're going to be reversing it. Now, if you have any trouble reading guitar tabs whatsoever, all you need to do is email us support@guitarmasterymethod.com. I'll send you a step-by-step video on exactly how to read guitar tabs. Super, super easy to understand. Okay, so three string sets. That's going to be a really, really powerful exercise to help lock in the patterns. Notice how we're walking through the scales differently. All right. Now, a really good thing to be doing is to be practicing this to a metronome, which looks somewhat like this. This is an old school one. You can get little apps on your cell phones, or for instance, free ones on your computer. So what this is going to do is it's going to click at what we call a BPM, beats per minute. Now, if I just put this over here, just out of sight, you can see it kind of popping in like that. All right. What I can do is I can practice this to the beat. Now, ideally, what we want to do is we want to play 4 notes per beat. So not one. So like we won't be on this. We won't be doing this. Oh. We want to be doing this. Shouldn't look at the computer screen while I try to do the exercise. Okay, 4 notes per beat. Now, if you have trouble with that, okay, then just at least do 2 notes per beat. Okay, so find it, double the speed. All right, so for instance, what BPM should you start at? You want to start at an easy one, and it's that simple. A BPM that you find very, very easy. So for instance, that there was at 88 BPM. If I take it to 60, which is of course 60 beats per minute, 1 beat per second. So if I have this going like at 60 beats per minute, okay, 1 beat per second. Okay, so that means that half a second for each note. Okay, so just try and get used to it. Playing 2 notes. And of course, reverse that pattern. Now, as I mentioned, we do want to get to the point where we are playing 4 notes per click, okay? Because that's going to help develop your timing as well as your sense of rhythm. The way to do that, okay, so if you have to slow it down to get 4 notes, that's fine. You might get lost. It's the slower the BPM, it's kind of the harder to get locked in, and that's the idea behind it. Okay, so we play 1 note per click, double it, and then double that. Wait until you got 4 notes every single time. You can kind of really feel that rhythm. Then start the exercise. Oh, see, I lost it there as I was talking. Make sure you're locked into it. All right. Now, as I mentioned, you want to repeat that through all of the other patterns, and you also want to use a metronome when you are practicing. Just going through the scale patterns as normal. So David says, can you play 1 note per click? While you can, I definitely don't recommend you do, because we want to start developing our rhythm and sense of timing as well. And so just doing 1 note per click is not going to do that as powerful as, for instance, 2 or especially 4 notes per click, because we have to anticipate where those notes are, where those notes are going to be. We have to use our mind a lot more, okay? So while it is a lot more difficult, that's definitely what I would recommend. All right, so the next, and then so what I would also recommend, guys, is finding a comfortable BPM to do with that, but then also increasing that BPM very slightly every day by like 2 or 3 beats per minute. Now, when you do that, you won't notice the change, but it's like a compounding effect. You end up getting a huge increase in your guitar playing speed as well. So exercise number 2. Now, this one may seem a little bit more complicated because it sounds a little more complicated, but it is very, very easy once you understand it. Okay, and it's called playing scales and thirds, and it sounds like this. All right, and then we're just going to repeat that pattern. So obviously, it's still here in the G pattern on the 5th fret. Okay, now what we're doing here is we're going to walk through, for instance, you know, before we went 3-string sets. Now we're going to be doing 3 notes, just 3 notes of the scale pattern. So we come here from the start, and we stop. And then we're going to go back one note of the pattern, okay? So back one, the note we just played was this here. Okay, so we play those notes here, and then we're going to start from the note we just played before and play 3. So you notice here I went 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so it's 3 notes at a time. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. We're going to go back to here and play 3 notes of the pattern. 1, 2, 3. We go back a note. 1, 2, 3. So just here to the D string, this is what we're doing. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. So you see, we're actually repeating a lot of notes. Now, if you take away the pauses, it can actually sound quite musical. Minus all the bung notes that I haven't had in there that time. All right, so you've got a tab for this and your PDF. Now, when we get to the high E string, we're going to reverse that. So we're playing 3 notes of the pattern. Go back to the note we just played, play 3 notes. Now, this is a little bit more complicated than the 3-string sets, but it's going to help lock in those scale patterns even more. All right, now of course you want to be practicing that and down here in the C pattern, up here in the D pattern, and up here in the C pattern as well. Now, this may seem like a tongue twister when you first start, but that's the idea, okay? It's meant to be hard. It's meant to be confusing because it's getting you to think in a different way. It's not just going linear, straight up and down, okay? Now, basically what we're doing is we're going like, we're getting the vinyl and we're just going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, going back over and over and over and over and over to really lock in those pictures, to really lock in these patterns on the fretboard. All right, so we have, as far as the physical guitar playing exercises, we have, of course, just playing through the exercise, playing through the scale patterns, which isn't even listed as an exercise because it's just obviously a given, okay? That's something you want to practice. Then we have the 3-string sets. Going through 3 strings, back a string. All right, and then, of course, we have the most difficult exercise, but very easy if you spend a little bit of time getting it, the scale patterns in thirds. 3 notes at a time. Now remember, you do have a tab for this in your reference material, but I don't recommend that you learn the exercise from the tab. It's only there for a reference just in case you get stuck. Okay, now the reason is because you want to be thinking while you're doing this exercise. And if you're reading the tab, it's not doing the work up here, okay? Because you've got no choice but to do the work, for instance, for the C pattern and for the D pattern and the C pattern up here on the 12th fret, because I haven't listed those in tab. But please only refer back to the tab to either double check that you have the exercise correct, or if you get really, really, really stuck. Okay, now as we go through the yeah, tab is definitely correct. Definitely correct. Okay, now what you want to think about it, just cutting it into 3 notes at a time. Okay, and that's going to help see how everything is divided up. It may look a little bit complicated. So for instance, if I just share my screen here. Pattern, okay, and this is the tab. I'm going to zoom in a little bit more here. Now we're going to play these 3 notes here. And then we just play the next 3. Okay, now notice how we went back a note in the pattern. We went back a note in the pattern. Okay, so just 3 notes at a time. Okay, you get the idea. And then here we're going back. Remember, you're dividing it into 3 notes. So 3 notes, 3 notes, 3 notes. Okay? So Michael says, using the pinky is a must. Just work on it and use the finger strengthening exercises. Absolutely. So if you are having any trouble using your pinky, I'm just going to change back to me, so you may lose me for just a second. So you should be back with me here now. So if you're having any trouble with your pinky finger, okay, just keep at it. Very important that you do use that finger, okay? Now you want to be thinking about this. If you're having trouble using your pinky finger, it's a weakness, and we want to eliminate weaknesses. We want to make your weaknesses strengths. So definitely use that pinky. Use it more than you use the other fingers, okay? Because we want to be building that pinky up, because we need that pinky to be playing these awesome guitar solos we're going to be getting to by the end of this workshop. Now I have 2 more exercises to go, okay? Now we don't have too much longer of this first lesson, okay? So these next 2 exercises may seem very, very strange, okay? It may seem a little bit airy-fairy, but these are going to be very, very powerful exercises to lock in these scale patterns into your mind. Now the first one is play the scale pattern with your eyes. Now what I mean by that is that you're going to hold the guitar and you're not going to put your hand on the fretboard. Okay? All you're going to do is you're going to look at the fretboard. You're going to imagine that picture on there. So for instance, the C pattern, I'm imagining the Sprinter. For the G pattern, I'm imagining the back to front G on the guitar fretboard. For the D pattern, I'm imagining the broken ladder. And I'm going to look at the string and the fret that I want to play. So I'm going to go through the whole scale pattern, okay? And I'm going to use my finger because obviously you can't actually see what I'm looking at, okay? Like this. I'm going to be going through that and playing it as if I'm playing it like this. But I'm just using my eyes. Now, every single time I move to a note, I'm going to vividly try to imagine a dot on the fretboard, just underneath that string, just like how you see in the scale diagrams. So you're literally trying to put that scale diagram, the dots, mentally project them onto the fretboard. So as you walk through the scale patterns, and you might have to think, because when you got your hand there, you've got muscle memory you can rely on. But this is going to be working out just in between your ears. So you're looking there and you're just playing it with your eyes, okay? So just look at the fretboard and just follow along with those notes, okay? So as you go in, 5-8, 5-7, 5-7, 5-7, go back and forth, go back and forth. Then you can go through the other exercises. So for instance, do the 3 string sets and do the playing the scales in thirds. Okay, now this is really going to get you a vivid picture of the scale pattern on the fretboard. Okay, now we are going to also, another thing, and this is probably the most powerful exercise, play the scale patterns with your mind only. So when you don't have a guitar near you, or for instance, when you jump into bed, when you go to sleep, imagine playing through the patterns in your mind. Now this is really going to cement them into your guitar playing. In fact, they've done a test with Olympic athletes. They hooked them up to, I think it's an EEG machine, where they got all those things around their brain. And they got them to just imagine running their Olympic event. And something really interesting happened. It was something like up to 95% of all of the brain activity was exactly the same as when they were actually performing, for instance, the long jump or the high jump or discus, whatever it was. So just by imagining it is pretty much 95% as good as doing it. So this means that you no longer have to practice guitar when you have a guitar in your hand. So let's say that you're got to go pick a kid up from school and you've got 5 minutes in the car. Go over that scale patterns. Go over those scale patterns. Okay, you jump into bed, go to sleep. Just run through the scale patterns, even run through the exercises, okay? Don't underestimate how powerful these last 2 exercises are. Practicing the scale patterns with your eyes, putting the dots on the fretboard, and also practicing them just in your mind as if you are actually playing them. All right, so these ones do sound strange, I know, but I've used them myself, and I know plenty of other people that have used them, not just in guitar, but in other areas of life as well, and experienced really great results. So if you're with me and you're going to try these weird stuff, just put I'm weird in the comment section for me right now. I'm weird, because seriously, if you guys want to get the best kind of results, you got to be doing this stuff. All right. So John says you're a beast, Charlie. Awesome. All right. We've got lots of I'm weirds coming in. Awesome, guys. Fantastic. All right. Tim says call me weird. Awesome, guys. All right. So this is really going to get this stuff completely locked in there. Awesome. All right. So now that is pretty much it for week number 1. Okay. Very nice and easy introduction. However, I do have a challenge for you to perform this week, and it is to improvise to a jam track. Okay, now what do I mean improvise? So a lot of you guys will already know what this means, okay, but this is the, for you guys that don't, it's just making up stuff on the spot. Now, we're not trying to make it musical just yet. We're going to use something that I call wandering, okay? We're just going to wander around the scale pattern, not trying to make it musical whatsoever. In fact, you can really try and make it sound not musical and it be just as effective, if not more. Just the same way that we use the scale exercises to really develop those patterns even more. Improvising and wandering around these scale patterns is going to lock them in a more musical sense. It's going to allow us to start using them in a more musical way later on. So in your members dashboard, and you have all this information in your PDF, I want you to go to Tools, click on Jam Tracks, and then go to the C major jam track. It should be one of the first ones there. C major jam track. Now, a lot of the other ones won't work because of where we are learning these scale patterns. We'll get to those in the coming weeks. Right now, I just want you to focus on the C major jam track. Now, remember that you aren't trying to make music yet, okay? Now, if you can make music, that's absolutely fine, then do, but I want you to restrict yourself to these patterns that we've been using. I want you to be thinking about the pictures as you're playing. So what do I exactly mean by wandering? I'm going to give you an example. I'm going to get that jam track up right now, and I myself am going to wander. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to hit play, and I'm going to play notes from the scale patterns in no particular order. In fact, as random as possible. And I'm going to start out just in the C pattern as an example. Let's crank this up. Let me know if the volume is all good. You can hear both of these. I'll put a distortion on here so you can hear the difference between the tone. Should be using the right fingers. All right. So Johnny, I saw put in here and said that it's going to be very hard to restrict himself. Okay. But I urge you to do it, okay? It's going to test yourself, all right? To restrict, get locked into this tiny little pattern. No adding no blues notes, no adding diatonic notes. For you guys that know, we're going back to the basics, okay? Just the pentatonic patterns, okay? So we're going to turn the jam track up just a little bit. So you guys want to know where the jam track is. As I mentioned, you'll find it in the PDF file. Tells you where it is. Log into your members area, click on Tools and Jam Tracks, and it's the C major jam track that you wanted to go for. So you notice here how I just went to random notes, okay? And you want to be using the fingers that I mentioned that you learned the pattern with. You want to be practicing it here with the C pattern, here with the G pattern, here with the D pattern, and up here with the C pattern as well. So if I just play that again, and I'm just going to start swapping in between the patterns a little bit more, okay? Not trying to make music, but you'll notice how all of the notes that I play fit perfectly with the music that's being played. Now, something that you can do as well as this is get the jam track playing in the background, and when you are just practicing the scales. So, for instance, even if you're just going through the scale exercise or literally just walking through, get this in the background, and you'll hear how all of the notes just fit perfectly with the backing track. So here I am. I'm going to do this wandering thing, not trying to make music, through the C pattern here, the G pattern here, the D pattern here, and the C pattern up here. So remember the sprinter, the back to front G, and the broken ladder. All right. And then when you're good to go, you can start to see how you can use those notes to make music. But you're not trying to do that just yet. All we're wanting to do, right, okay, is just wander around those notes. Okay, now if this is making sense to you, please put a yes in the comment section. I don't want you to make music. I want you to jam to the backing track, okay, and just play absolutely random notes, okay? If you understand that, then please put a yes, 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 yes. Awesome. Got lots of yeses flying through right now. Okay, now we are going to be getting into the questions and answers section very shortly. But so remember that is your challenge for this week. Now, part of the challenge is to record a video of yourself doing that, not making music. If you make any music, if you make anything that sounds anything like music, no, that's not what we're looking for, okay? What we want to do is post a video of you wandering around the C major jam track using these patterns and put a video into the private Facebook community. Now you're going to have absolute major bonus points for the most random assortment of notes. Okay, so if you can make it absolutely sound bizarre, obviously the notes are all going to fit, but just the most random assortment. Maybe you decide to put one note from each pattern every single time and you move them back around, okay? If you make mistakes during the video, that's absolutely fine, okay? But this is your challenge. Go through absolutely everything, okay? And before the lesson next week, record yourself, whether it's on your cell phone, whether it's on your webcam, however you want to do it, upload it into the Facebook community of you wandering around the C major jam track. Okay, remember if you're not sure where the jam track is, you can just go to the last page in your PDF file, which you can of course download here. And if you are watching the replay, you can click below. And when you do, in there, just go down the bottom and it will tell you where the jam track is. Okay, so remember, bonus points for the most random assortment of notes. And if you upload a video of you doing this, wandering around, and if you sound like you're making music, not what we're looking for, okay? Remember, they've got bonus points for the most random assortment of notes. All we're trying to do here is lock in the patterns. And believe it or not, playing the patterns in the most weird way possible is actually the best way to do that, because you're not trying to think in a musical sense at all. You're just trying to get the pattern locked in. And you can be visualizing those pictures, the sprinter, the backwards G, and the broken ladder as you go through that. I need a little bit of water. So what I need you guys to do this week's practice is to spend a bare minimum. This is a minimum. This doesn't mean something to aim for. This is the minimum of 15 minutes a day, every day, playing through the C, G, and D scale patterns, playing through them normally, as well as using the exercises to help memorize them. Now, on top of that, you want to do the two mental exercises of both just using your eyes to play the patterns and in your mind when you don't have a guitar near you. And the most powerful time to do that, remember, is when you go to bed. So every night when you go to bed, spend at least 5 minutes just visualizing yourself going through those patterns. It's going to really, really amplify your results as you go through this workshop week to week. And you also want to spend a minimum, not something to aim for, a bare minimum of 10 minutes every day. So twice through the jam track at least, wandering through the scale patterns to the C major jam track. Okay, so wandering through all of them. Maybe you want to try and get the jam track on and go through it a whole time just in the C pattern down here. And then you want to go through a whole time just in the G pattern here. And you want to do the whole time just in the D pattern here. And again, just one time in the C pattern here. That'll be absolutely ideal. But feel free to switch in between them as well. Okay, so that is a challenge. Upload a video of you wandering, bonus points for the most random assortment of notes. And this week's practice, okay, spend 15 minutes every day going through the patterns and through the exercises, as well as the mental exercises on top of that, especially when you go lie down into bed, 5 minutes every night, visualize yourself going through those 3 patterns, and spend a minimum 10 days every day wandering through the scale patterns in the C major jam track. All right, so first of all, congratulations. We have gotten to the end of the first lesson of the 10-week Master the Fretboard workshop. We're about to go into the questions and answers section. Okay, so I'm going to be answering any questions you guys have. So if you have any questions about the lesson that we have gone through here today, please start putting them in the comment section over here. Now remember, the best way to do that is to click on the gray icon and it will come up with an option to change it to red. Okay, it means it's a question. It's going to come in a different part for me. Click on that, ask your question, and I'll go through each and every single one of them. I'll stay here until I've answered all of you guys' lessons here. So we've got lots of people here saying applause to you, Charlie. Great. Thanks, Paul. Mark says great lesson. John says this is going to be nuts. Awesome. All right, fantastic. 10. I didn't mean. So I must have said 10 days every day. 10 minutes every day. Awesome, guys. All right. So let's dive into these questions. All right, so James asks, how does changing tunings affect positions like the G minor pentatonic? A different position, same shape, or shift frets by same number? Okay, so what we want to be doing is I'd recommend not worrying about that stuff just yet. Yeah, if I think that is going to be something that will kind of answer itself as we go through the workshop. But as we do go through the workshop, for instance, if we get to the end of week number 4 and that question isn't answered for you, James, then please ask that again, and I'll dive in and explain everything. But by then we'll have all the tools for it to completely make sense. Right now we don't have all the tools ready for it to make sense. By week 4 we definitely will. Frederick. Yes, so if you guys did it with me live, this is going to be the same time each week. Okay, so Nick says, I am a rank beginner. And so this is at the start. He's worried about what people were asking. He's wondering if this is too advanced for him because he's never really picked up a guitar before. Now, as I mentioned, there is the Getting Started module in the members area, which is very important that you have gone through. If you haven't gone through the Getting Started module, you're going to want to go through that. It's going to help you understand this lesson even more, and will get you up and running. Tom has asked, where do you position your picking hand so you can pick the correct string? All right, so I'm going to show you right here. Okay, so picking, this is what you want to do. Have your hand, okay, so it's obviously very important, first of all, that you're holding your pick correctly. Okay, so you want to put your hand out like this, put the pick here, and put your thumb down on it. Okay, now it might seem weird to start off with. Now, as for instance, what you want to do is you want to have the pick shooting out at a 90-degree angle. Okay, so if your arm's straight, it's shooting out at a 90-degree angle, so that when you bring the pick down into here, it's shooting straight into the guitar like that. Now, we actually want to use just a tiny amount of pick. For instance, if I'm playing like this, you can barely see the pick hanging out the edge. Okay, especially if I'm like wanting to do some pinch harmonics and stuff, you have to use even more of the pick. You can barely even see that green bit popping out there. Okay, so down here, and you want your picking hand here. This part here, which I call the meat, okay, the steak, it kind of resembles a piece of meat. You want it to rest on the bridge down here. Very lightly rest on the bridge. And then so as your hand is here, we want to have the pick completely flat. And so if we just play just downstrokes here, just like this. Okay, now as you move through the strings, you want to slowly move your hand down like this. You don't want to stay up here and go like this, because at the bottom, you're going to have quite a nasty angle on your pick. We just want to be going flat across all the strings. Might take a while to get comfortable with it. Definitely worth the effort. Okay, so Kevin mentioned, why is it important to... Oh, I'll change this back to my face. A little bit rude of me talking to you guys with just staring at my hands in the guitar. All right. So, where were we? Kevin asked, why is it important to remember the root note? And as we were going through the lesson, I mentioned, don't even worry about that yet, okay? Everything will reveal itself in the coming weeks. For now, just remember why it's there, okay? In the same way that, you don't worry about how electricity works. You just flick the light switch and trust that the light will come on, okay? Just for now, remember where the root note is, and it's going to serve a very important purpose later on for us in the workshop. All right, so we're going to be learning part of the cage system, how it links up. Just to answer a few of the questions here, we're going to be adding on to it as well in a really cool way. So Robert says, should I do this exercise with all 3 patterns? Absolutely. So when I demonstrated those scale exercises, the scale pattern exercises, I showed you just in one pattern. that was just as an example. You want to use that same, the same theory behind the exercises for all of the patterns. David said, is it okay to just know the patterns? And I think that was when the pictures came up. It is okay to just know the patterns. Okay, that is absolutely fine. But I would definitely recommend understanding those pictures, okay? Because as I mentioned, the mind works in pictures. So being able to apply them on the fretboard and just like kind of like mention like fading the picture in and fading the picture out, okay? Because that's going to just give your mind another thing to grab onto and allow you to remember the patterns even more. Even if you think you already know them super well, this will help you even more. So Karen says, what was your metronome just set at? So I started out at 88 beats per minute, and then I lowered it down to 60 beats per minute. So Benjamin asked, D pattern, second finger start. Okay, no. Okay, and the reason for that is that we are locking in. Remember, we started out here with our first finger on the 10th fret, and as we went through the pattern, our first finger here is playing here. Now, if you start with your middle finger, our pinky is going to have to go across, okay? And especially for later on when we're going to be playing some more solo-y sort of stuff, whole lot easier to be using these fingers than these fingers, okay? All right? So that's why we're using our first finger to start. We're not using our middle finger to start the D pattern. All right. So how long do I want the video for the challenge? It can be 30 seconds, it can be 1 minute, it can be through the whole jam track, however long you would like. It's more of an execution thing. You know, as long as you're doing it, that's all that matters. Okay, just get that uploaded in there for us. All right. And so remember, guys, you can get the jam tracks by logging into your members area. member.guitarmastermethod.com. If you have any trouble getting there, just email us, support@guitarmastermethod.com. We'll just go to our website, click on contact. We'll get you all sorted, get you logged in and all up and running. Okay. And once you are logged into the members area, on the top menu, click on Tools, Jam Tracks, and you'll find the C major jam track right in there. Okay, so Mark says, if it's C major jam track, how can you play G and D? Okay, now remember, guys, that this is something that I want to really, really, really emphasize. Okay, I'm gonna really emphasize this. Because of that pattern, if you can read my terrible handwriting, okay? That is why we can play those, okay? Because we are not playing G scales, and we're not playing D scales. We're not playing a G scale, and we're not playing a D scale. We are playing a G scale pattern that is built around the chord shape, the open chord shape of open G. And we are playing a D scale pattern that is built around the open chord shape of D. They happen to be in the position of C major. Now, don't worry if that doesn't make sense, because it is going to make sense as we go through, okay? So to answer your question, it is a really good question, I must say, but this is the answer, okay? Because we are playing patterns, not scales, and this is going to allow us to know how to play any kind of scale at all, okay? At all of the scales, okay? So remember, patterns, very, very, very important to remember. We're not playing scales yet. We're playing scale patterns, and the names are only representative of the open chord shape that the pattern is built around. All right. So John Mark Cole says, what if you already have this stuff locked in? Now remember, as I mentioned at the start of this video, oh, excuse me, I feel like I'm going to sneeze a little bit. There's a lot of pollen around here. I'll get through it. As I mentioned, we are going to be, you know, for instance, you guys, more advanced guitar players are here because you want to add on to the knowledge that you already have. Now, obviously, for you guys that are more advanced, the stuff that we're covering closer to the end of the workshop is going to be the most beneficial for you. However, what I want you to do is to follow along with these lessons step by step, because you guys already have a solid foundation. I know, for instance, you, John Michael, Mark, I should say, you have an amazing foundation. But going through this stuff as if you're a fresh beginner is going to only solidify that even more. And as I mentioned, it's going to amplify your results later on. Okay, now remember, as I mentioned as well, for instance, someone in your position and everybody else's position here, I would highly recommend that you find someone to teach this stuff to. So for instance, the entire lesson that we've just gone through here today, I would definitely recommend that you find someone that you can teach this stuff to, so that the next week you can teach them that, and the next week you can teach them that. Now, as you start doing this, not only do you get to share some really cool guitar experiences with another person, but it's going to lock it in for you even more, okay? Because they say, like, you really want to understand something, you should teach it. So when you start to teach it, they're going to ask you questions, and you're going to have to try and think of answers in the same way that I'm coming up with answers here. Okay, now if you don't know the answers, then you can bring those questions back into the next live session, or you can just email me, support@guitarmastermethod.com, or ask in the community. Okay, now remember, if you don't have someone that you can teach, you can still get all the benefits of it, minus the question asking, by recording videos. Now, this is very, very powerful. I definitely recommend that you do this. Record videos of yourself teaching another person, or like imagine you're going to post it up like to your Facebook page or something. Okay, just no one ever has to see it, but record yourself as if you are actually recording like an instructional DVD or something. Okay, because it's going to help you lock in this information even more, even if no one ever sees it. It's the act of actually going through that process of teaching it and explaining things in your own words. That is where the powerful thing is. Dwayne says, teaching my girlfriend, I bet she'll dump me by week 5. I think that she won't, because she'll be getting some amazing results just like you will. I think she'll be pretty amped up. All right. So Larry says, so can you play all 3 scale patterns with the C jam track? And as I mentioned before, absolutely you can, because of that word pattern. Okay, now we've positioned them in the key of C major, but don't worry about the theory or anything like that whatsoever. Just for now, just practice those scale patterns in the positions that I've mentioned before, and as long as your guitar is all tuned up, you're going to be playing all the right notes and to be perfectly in that scale, to be in that key. Okay. All right. All right. So, the Facebook community is obviously available only if you have a registered account on Facebook. All you need to do is just head to facebook.com, enter your email address, enter your name, click register. Even if you can't access it on your cell phone, you can still access it just online. Now, the community is so great. This is something that you don't want to miss out on. If you guys aren't in the community yet, you got to get in there. Okay. And lots of people even mention that they learn just as much from the community as the lessons themselves. And as I mentioned at the start, you guys are not going through this alone. You can see in the comment section, you guys that are here with me live, all of the people that are going through the lessons with you, going through the workshop with you. So it is very important that we work together as a team as we go through this. Okay. And the best way to do that is in the community, because that's where we're going to be all working together and going forward. Okay. And also you get a whole bunch of bonus lessons in there that we add in, okay? Myself, Will, and Mike, other instructors here at guitarmastermethod.com. And we do have someone else coming in shortly as well. Okay, so you want to get in there. We also do giveaways and all sorts of cool stuff in there. So if you're not in the community, get in there, okay? You can find it just by logging into your members area. Up on the top menu, it says community. Click on that, and that'll take you straight there. All right. David says, I'll be leaving town on Wednesday. What should I do besides bringing my guitar with me? Okay, so what I would recommend is every chance you get, even though you'll be taking a guitar with you, be thinking of those patterns, going through those scale patterns, okay? A lot of this stuff is more mental than anything else, Okay, so just try and do your best to lock in those scale patterns as best as you can. That's definitely what I recommend. If you have a guitar with you, continue practicing all that I've suggested for this week, just the same. Okay, so David says exercise 2, should it be played in thirds? In other words, 3 subdivisions on a metronome. There is one way you could do it. I would, that would be easier to break it down, but I would recommend still trying to work to just 4 notes per click, because it's going to get your mind working a little bit extra. Okay, so Phil James, yes, the misprint was in the D pattern of the PDF. Now it's only when I'm showing the chord shape and the scale pattern and merged together. Okay, now if you're watching the recording of this, don't worry, because it will be all fixed up. The download that you have right there in the recording is all fixed up. And for you guys that are here with me live, don't worry about it, because it's such a minor detail that it's not going to affect anything going long term. But if you do want to make sure that you get that within 24 hours, this will be in the MIMS area with the fixed up version there. All right. All right, just trying to read through these guys. So that's right, Jeff and Tom. So random notes from all 3 patterns to the C major jam track, not just the C pentatonic pattern. That is correct, yes. Just because we are positioning them. But remember, don't worry about the theory behind it yet. Just trust in the science. All right, so Chris says, you're a great instructor. Thank you very much. Paul says, are all the lessons going to be this long? To be honest, I have no idea. There is a certain amount of, obviously at the start of this video, we had to fill you in a whole bunch of information of what the workshop is going to contain as we go forward. Obviously, we won't need that for the others. We'll try to keep them as short and concise as possible while still covering the subject. I can't remember who it was. Someone said that that any writing or video should be like a skirt, long enough to cover the subject, but short enough to keep it exciting. I've always thought that was a good line. I can hear you guys laughing, by the way. I'm a funny guy, right? How do I get my little finger to stretch 3 frets? Okay, now, your little finger to stretch 3 frets. So if you can't quite get that, you can you can move across. Your thumb is very important. Okay, so for instance, if I put my thumb back here, it's going to be very hard for me to get over to here. But if I put it in the middle, then getting over here is going to be very easy. Okay, but a very good exercise to stretch that out is to put your first finger here on the 5th fret and reach up as far as you can with your pinky, okay, and then do a trill, which is hammering on and pulling off, okay, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, okay, and just trying to do that. It's really going to work that finger and get that stretch out, okay. Very important where your thumb is, okay. Now my thumb here is right here, okay. If I put my thumb here, you can see that drags my hand, my whole hand up like that, okay. So your thumb has more to do with the stretch than any other thing, okay. Hand closed, hand open, hand closed, hand open, okay. It's like a lever, okay. All right. Cool. So James, there's no real questions about the material, but thanks, you're on it. It is where I am at. I think I understand. Fantastic. Good to hear. David says, great stuff, Charlie. Should we always use alternate picking for these exercises or mix it with economy picking as well? I would suggest right now, just use alternate picking. If you're a more advanced guitar player, absolutely feel free to add in economy picking. Especially for instance, for the thirds, you can get a lot more speed using economy picking, which of course is covered in the getting started module. If you feel ready to tackle it, then absolutely. If not, if you're just new to alternate picking, then just stick with alternate picking for at least the first 4 weeks before trying to use economy picking. Economy picking is going to come a lot more in handy when we start playing the diatonic scale patterns. All right. So Michael says, how do we stretch stubby fingers? Same way I just mentioned before. Milan. Off the wall question. My back always starts to hurt while playing. Is there a good body position to alleviate the pain? I would suggest, Milan, something that I have found, especially working with Guitar Master Method. I sit at computers for a very extended, long period of time. So I had all sorts of back pain and stuff, and I got, for number one thing is, I got a standing desk. This thing is like super flash. I can push a button and it's going to go up to standing level. You probably hear that, but I better stop that in case it starts pulling out any cables or anything, okay? And that helped a little bit, but what really helped is actually doing some press-ups and sit-ups and stuff. It may sound absolutely weird, but like just doing a tiny little bit of exercise every day helped my back pain and helped me stop getting what they call frozen shoulders, because I sit here like this doing work all day. Helped just sort of ease these up, and you'll be absolutely amazed. Just a little bit of that kind of stuff will really, really, really help you in the long run, not just for playing guitar, obviously with everything, because you're getting back pain is not fun at all, especially not if you're trying to play guitar. All right. So David Van Bibber says, I'm a more advanced player. Is this program going to get into an area of study geared toward this level of play? And absolutely. So the way that this workshop is laid out, and as I mentioned at the start, is we're leaving no stone unturned. By the end of this workshop, you're going to get all of the results that I mentioned at the very start. Okay, that long list of the outcomes that you're going to achieve. Now, we are taking every single step along that journey through these 10 weeks. So right now, we're just laying the foundation. The first 4 weeks are really formative, really making sure we have the super, super solid foundation, because as soon as we have a really, really strong foundation, we can just build a building 1,000 feet tall. But if we try to build the building without the foundation, everything's going to fall over. Okay, so while you may already have a solid foundation, there are plenty of other guitarists here that don't have that solid foundation just yet. And we're all working together to get there, okay? So what I recommend, as I mentioned before to John Mark Culp, is just follow along, even though you already have a solid foundation, even though you already have a good understanding of some of the stuff that we're covering. By the end of the 10 weeks, we'll be covering a huge amount of stuff that is going to really explode your playing ability. And if you're already advanced, it's just going to send you off like a rocket. Okay, so just remember that there's no stone unturned throughout the whole way here. Okay, so if this stuff seems too simple, okay, that's absolutely fine. I did not expect you, the more advanced guitar players, to go into this lesson and learn a great deal. Okay, maybe, for instance, a few new angles to attack things from. Okay, but what this is about is laying that foundation. Think about it as complete revision over stuff that you may already know, just to make sure that there are no gaps in your understanding, because if there's even the slightest little gap, that's going to stop us being able to build that building 1,000 feet tall. Michael says, oh, he's got a broken wrist. That's not good. Okay, so I can't really twist the hand and wrist into position, and fingers can't really reach the low E string. How do I practice? Well, number one thing is, I've mentioned, you can practice in your mind. Okay, in your mind. That is the best way to be doing it. And I'd say if you have to, just try and get your hand over here without your thumb and behind the fretboard. Not recommended, but if you have to, I'd say do whatever it takes to get your hands on the guitar as we go through these 10 weeks. And obviously, once you get out of the cast and all that kind of thing, you'll be good to go and be able to understand everything as we go forward. A lot of the stuff is going to be mental. Just remember that. It's going to be a lot more mental workout than necessarily physical, okay? We want to be working on the physical guitar playing skills as well for you guys that don't have broken wrists at the moment, okay? But a lot of this is the mental work, okay? So you can still follow along. Michael says, can I watch this lesson again? Absolutely. Remember that all of the lessons are recorded and put into the members area. It takes us about 24 hours to have the lesson in the members area from you guys that are here with me live right now. Benjamin says, hard to remember to alternate pick. So if it is hard to remember to alternate pick, then what you want to do is you want to practice just alternate picking, not doing the scale patterns, okay? So just go 2 notes per string. I thought things started sounding funny. Last time I had a cable screw out, and this time this cable's going to screw out as well. So down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, okay? Down, up every single time. Down, up, down, up, down, up. Okay, so you got some really great comments in here. I'm just reading through the questions here, but I really appreciate all you guys putting all the comments in there as well. That's really, really cool to see you guys really digging this stuff. All right, so Mike says, as a new member, I'm an intermediate guitarist. I only have so much practice time. Do you recommend that for the next 10 weeks I focus on this course for practice material? Absolutely, Mike. So especially since, this is the only time that we are doing this live. Next 10 weeks, commit to the 10-week workshop, really excel your guitar playing skills. All right. Can you provide PDF a little before live lessons? And that is possibly something that we can do. What we'll do is we'll do our best to get in and give you guys the PDFs before we start. I'm not sure exactly how we'll work that, but we will try and do our best to make that happen for you guys. Okay, so Claude says Jam Tracks is not there in the tools. If you guys can't find the Jam Tracks, just remember, log in, click on Tools, Jam Tracks, and you'll see them in there. If for whatever reason it doesn't show in your members area, simply just email us, support@guitarmastermethod.com, and we will get you all sorted there. All right. John says, should we master the three string 6 and 3 note 6? I'm not quite sure exactly what you mean by that, John. Lawrence, should we visualize the open chord when playing each pattern? That is definitely a good idea, absolutely. So the open chord shape that the scale pattern is built upon, absolutely. Greg says, is there any difference for right hand position with an acoustic? No, it's literally exactly the same. Now that's only for when you're picking notes. So obviously if you're like wanting to strum, a little bit different. Okay, but if you are picking notes, it's all the same. Okay, all the way down here, strumming. Hands up and down, which is what we call floating. Okay, but then it's fixed when we're doing picking. All right. So Daniel says, can I play another C major jam track? Absolutely. Anything that's in the key of C major, so whether you find a jam track on YouTube, whether you create your own, that's absolutely fine, or use the one that is provided. All right. So Dave says, unfortunately, missed it. How will we now be able to see it? Of course, you can watch the replay. Benjamin says, thanks, this excellent lesson. Thank you, Benjamin. David, what do you suggest to do when out of town? May not be able to bring my guitar. As I mentioned, you can practice with your mind. Seriously, it's very, very powerful. Okay. Doc says, are we to practice the patterns at their original location or everything at the 5th fret? Now, you are what I want you to do is to practice the patterns and the positions that I've shown you them here today. So you only have so I think you're possibly talking about the exercises. So for instance, the G pattern, you'll practice here. The C pattern, you'll practice here and here with the open and the movable positions. And of course, you'll have the D pattern to practice here on the 10th, 12th, 9th, and 13th frets. Just starting on the 10th fret, though, of course. So Jim says, why do some instructors not worry about the cage system? Some people say not to learn it. And I believe that that is because they do not have a good functional way of implementing the cage system in a musical sense. And that is what I'm going to be showing you here. And we're not just covering the cage system, we're going to be covering a whole lot more stuff in depth that's going to add on top of it, that's going to pump it full of steroids as well. So, yep, new PDF will be up in the members area. Okay, and yes, there's Q&As will be in the recorded session as well. Okay, so remember, yep, you do. So Paul, yes, you just want to stay in the positions that, even though they are movable, you want to stay in the positions that I've showed you them here today. So Rick, I've just seen your question here. Can we include some of the E pattern and C majors also? No. Okay, I'm forbidding that. Only what I've shown you here today. Okay, only what I've shown you here today, because we're just building this piece by piece. Okay, I want you to restrict yourself to just what we've covered here today. So Lane, is there always going to be a PDF file for every week's lesson? Yes, there will be a PDF file for every single week's lesson. Okay, so Michael asked the same question. So yeah, so sometimes it takes me a while to get to the questions, but I will definitely answer them all. So Jamie says, I was ingredients on instead ingested for own load. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by that, man. Can you let me know? Tom, does it help to be thinking of the patterns as mechanical rather than music theory? 100% correct. Whoa, it just changed. It says, because I've only learned by ear. Yes, definitely think about it as mechanical, and we'll be worrying about musical stuff later on. Okay, so Sean has asked, can I review how to use a metronome again? Absolutely. So the best way to do it is to set it at a comfortable BPM. Right here it is 60 beats per minute. Now, if we're going to be playing through a scale pattern, we want to find the beat first of all, okay? And we get locked in, and then we double the beat. So now we're playing 2 notes per click. And now we're going to double that, so we're playing 4 notes per click. May take a while to get the pattern, to get the beat. Let's say if we go a little too fast. No, we go a little too slow. No. If you lose it completely, and start again. Okay, and then once you've got it, 4 notes per click, ideally at least 2 notes per click. You're going to start going through the scale patterns. Now you can allow a click in between them if you find it easier. Or you can just repeat the same pattern over and over again. Or you can, of course, go through one of the exercises like the 3-string sets. All right. Tom says, can somebody get Charlie more water? Johnny's busy moderating for you guys, unfortunately. I'm nearly out. All right, so Michael says, had an unexpected thing I had to get done. I missed the lesson. Of course, you can watch the replay with all the questions and answers, of course. And the Casey, the PDF will be ready to download when the lesson is up as well. So Jim, absolutely not adding in blues notes whatsoever. We just what we covered here today. So JP says, thanks for your time and effort working on this session. That's all good. Thank you very much for coming. All right. Chris, Charlie, an easy way to reach the frets above the 12th fret on an acoustic guitar. I have a hummingbird. Okay, so obviously it comes down to a point where it's possible that you cannot get up there, okay, because some acoustic guitars cut off at the 12th fret. A lot of them cut off at the 14th fret. If you let your thumb drag behind, sometimes you can get a little bit more juice up there, okay, but it comes down to at some point it's possible that you won't be able to reach the way up the fretboard, okay? Obviously because it's literally just cutting off, okay? All right. Okay, so Jeff, so I've already given you guys some examples of playing along to the jam track, just playing absolutely random notes, and that's all it is, just completely random notes, Jack Barcia says the best cyber guitar lesson I've ever had. That's awesome. I can see Rich says great first class. How much time will the average class be on Sundays? Just need to plan around family. All right, so I'm guessing I want them to be around 1.5 hours to 1 hour 45. Obviously, this one's stretching on to be quite long, but we will try and keep them down to be as short as possible. Docs is huge. Thank you. Well done, mate. Thank you. John said, so you said the 3-string 6 exercise, the 3-string set, S-E-T exercise, 3-string set exercise, which of course you do have in your PDF there. All right. Thank you, Mark. So Raymond says, with practice, will my stumpy fingers improve on both hands? Absolutely. You work on anything, it's going to improve. So David says, counting a 16th note, something like a 1E and a 2E and a 3. Yes, that's true. And an 8th note would just be 1 and 2 and 3. All right. Wayne says, how can you go through the wandering and not make it sound like music? I just tried, and because it all fits together, it sounds like music. Now, that's kind of why we're doing it, okay, because it is going to sound good to start with, okay? Now, don't worry if it does sound good. Just try and pick completely random notes, okay? John says, just want to thank you for this awesome first week. That's all good, John. Graham says, is it the best to practice standing or sitting? I find the guitar feels entirely different when standing. I'd say for all intensive purposes, practice sitting and then get your guitar playing really good sitting, and then, of course, transition that to standing. Okay, but don't switch in between, I'd say. And like, for instance, you get comfortable playing with both, playing in both sitting and standing positions eventually, but it is kind of different to start off with, so I definitely recommend sitting to start off with. So Paul says, are the patterns positions interchangeable, for instance? Yes, the patterns are, you can move them down, up and down the fretboard, but don't worry about it yet. Please don't move them yet, okay? Timothy says, we're going to be doing that later in the workshop. Timothy, you should be able to do stretching exercises to help with aches and pains of sitting at a computer to do this. Absolutely. I've been doing my best to get into those. Otis says, I've learned lots. Thank you very much. See you next week. Thank you. And Daryl says, thank you for the help. It really makes a difference. Lots of other thank yous coming through. Thank you very much. Greg says, I'm 61. I've had problems increasing my speed. Will you cover speed exercises, or is it just practice, practice, practice? Since this is a 10-week Master Fretboard workshop, this is not including speed exercises. However, we do have the Ultimate Guitar Speed Building System that will develop your guitar speed and physical guitar playing skills. Playing through the patterns and stuff like that is going to do that. But obviously, because this is geared towards understanding of fretboard knowledge and not necessarily increasing guitar playing skills, it's not something that we are going to focus on in this particular workshop. Okay, so yeah, we could potentially get the PDF and the emails. I'll do my best to try and get that sorted for you guys. It'll probably, if you just keep an eye out, probably be in the 1 hour before email. So Chris has said, I highly recommend you guys who did not go through the Getting Started module, do it, as it will answer a few of your questions. Absolutely. Okay. Yes, Mark, all the lessons are going to be live with me instructing. Fred says, is it possible for a beginner to use this system to do this system stuff to keep up with all memorizing of patterns and stuff to keep up with the rest of the class, Charlie? Because I'm going to give it my best shot. Absolutely, Fred. Because the thing is that you don't have to leave today having memorized everything. You've got a whole week to memorize just those 3 patterns. Okay, a whole week, just those 3 patterns. Obviously, practicing everything that I mentioned in the PDF as well. So Daniel, the live lessons will be at the same time every week, and of course, in the members area, the recordings are available whenever you like. Kevin Walker says, what should I do for stiff fingers? Will soaking them in hot water loosen them up? Funnily enough, that will loosen them up, but it will also tenderize the tops. I'd recommend shaking your fingers out like this, doing this, doing this, and doing this. Going through the scale patterns. Okay, going through the scale patterns is a really good warm-up exercise for your fingers. All right, so that is all of the questions that are here. Now, of course, if you have any more questions about this particular lesson, then feel free to reach out, and either by clicking on the support tab in the members community, sorry, in your members area. And oh, things just jumped. Okay, that was odd. I've got a couple more questions, but just while I'm here, okay. I just want to mention, guys, I'll answer the other questions that have just popped up. That if you have any questions that aren't answered, then please just get in touch by just click on the contact page on our website, or asking in the members community. Remember, the members community is only for guitar related talk. If you, for instance, if you post in there saying, I'm locked out of my account, I can't log in, unfortunately, we have just started having to delete those comments because that comes up on everybody's timeline, and it just starts chewing up too much space in the members community, and obviously isn't constructive to the Guitar Talk. We can't help you in there. We literally cannot help you log into members area if you let us know in the members community. We simply can't, because we don't have the details that we need. We need you to email us and get in touch that way for us to, for instance, help you log in if you have trouble logging in and that kind of thing. But of course, with the if you're having trouble understanding something, ask in the members community, okay? Because obviously you do have me, you have the likes of the other guitar instructors in there, and you also have the likes of all the other guitar instructors that are your fellow members that are just going through this course as well. Because sometimes the person who can explain something the best is someone who's literally just learned it. Okay, so feel free to ask if you're having trouble understanding a concept. I mean, we covered some pretty basic stuff, but we did cover a lot. So if you're having trouble understanding something, feel free to ask, reach out in the members community. You'll be amazed at how supportive we all are in there. It's a really, really, really awesome, supportive, positive environment in there. All right. So Greg says, can you play a loop of the patterns randomly starting and moving around? Yeah, absolutely. Just really focus on random notes. So don't, for instance, try and structure anything. All right. So Lane, you can keep that PDF. Absolutely keep it. Or if you'd like just that one tiny little bit fixed, just go download it from the members area. It'll be in the members area and within 24 hours. So Mark says, Charlie, is it fact or false that the older you are, the harder it is to build speed? I would say that the only thing that makes it harder as you get older is that there is this preconditioned belief that it is going to be harder. Now, there are the likes of, for instance, Johnny G, who I believe was here today. He is a member of Guitar Mastery Method. He's in the community all the time. He's now a great blues guitar player, and he only started playing guitar less than 5 years ago. And he is well into his late 50s, and he can play very fast now. So all you have to do is commit. He put in the work. Okay. Now, for instance, the Ultimate Guitar Speed Building System, that may be something that you want to look into if building your speed is important to you. Building your speed, timing, accuracy, that's what that system does. Okay. So, yeah, you can definitely do that. So Dave says, I've been working on modes. How important are they? They are very important, and we will be covering those in depth later on in the workshop. All right. So that looks like all for today, guys. All right. So thank you very much for sticking with me right here till the end. Of course, you will have access to this in the members community very, very shortly. Now, if you have any other questions, as I mentioned, no, you won't have this in the members community. You'll have this in your members area. And if jump in, I recommend jumping into the members community right now. Talk about it. Talk about the lesson that we've just been through. Talk about it with your fellow members. And remember to post up your challenge video. All right? So thank you very, very much for sticking with me here, guys. You guys are absolutely awesome. I'm super excited about going through the rest of this 10-week workshop, as well as all the bonus sessions that you have lined up as well at the end. Okay, so thank you again. If you have any more questions, feel free to reach out to me at any time, and I will talk to you guys soon. Practice hard this week, okay? Go through that. Go through everything I've mentioned in there. Get those visualizations on the fretboard. Get everything locked in, because next week we're just going to be building on top of that. And each week we're going to be building on top and on top and on top. We've got lots of thank you. Cheers. Thanks a bunch. Charlie, thank you. Rick, Kurt, DJ, Otis, Nick, Phil, Roland, Ingy, Brian, Graham. Thank you guys. So great to have you guys here. So great to be doing this with you guys. And I really look forward to seeing you all next week. So I'm going to shut this thing off, and I'll talk soon, guys. Have a great day or night wherever you are in the world. And as I mentioned, I'll talk soon.